which I think you met Maya?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I've met anybody.
Oh, okay, my
Yeah,
mistake.
during the period when you were able to get folks together, I was like doing some political work, so I wasn't able to. Yeah.
Ella's been coming, and helping me out quite a bit, and her plan was to be here and be fully available and get started back up in fencing, but she's off next month to Cambridge. She's going to go get her PhD at Cambridge.
Damn, okay.
And her sister has started her PhD at Cornell this month.
Damn.
So I've lost two of my fencing
for good reasons, I guess.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, we're just going to jump in.
Oh, I can go grab my stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't hurt myself.
Go right ahead. Okay. Are we good? Okay. All right. So remember, we're going to sit down with our knees bent to the degree that you're comfortable with that, right? Okay. And now remember how you were holding on to your grip with the fingers on that outer swell, and you've got it pinched between your index finger and your thumb, and your fingers are not right behind the coquille. You're back away from the coquille about 3/4 of an inch or so. Okay. Now here's what you should do, and watch the position of my arms. I'm going to raise it, but not towards your face. You don't want to mask, right? So you want to bring your elbow up so that the elbow is about one hand width away from your torso.
Something like that.
That's good. You want it to not be fully extended and straight, and you do not want it to collapse against your torso. And what people do is, with fatigue early on, as they're building muscle tone, they get tired real easily. That arm drops down. Okay, so you want to get used to having it out in front of you. Okay, think about the button, right, the point of your blade. You want to have if no one's standing in front of you, an imaginary opponent, and you want to lift that up to what would be about throat height. About throat height. Okay, nose is fine, a little bit lower would be even better. Right? Okay, now, here's the other thing, and this really matters, and this is one of the ways in which the classical fencing that I've learned in Colombia differs very much from what Evangelista does. You always keep your hand off of your foot, meaning your hand needs to be to one side or the other. Yeah, well, either one. Now, the typical home position is off to the outside. Now, remember we talked about inside and outside last time? Remember
the quadrants,
Right, yeah. So, a typical home position is sixth, which is with your point up, your elbow out, and your hand is off to the right side or the outside of a right-handed person's foot.
Question.
Yeah.
Does the tip move or stay aligned?
Moves slightly. Okay. Now, so I'm going to try to answer your question without getting you confused.
No, you're good.
So in classical fencing, we're going to have our blades opposed to one another in a wedge shape. Okay. Now, I want you to envision that wedge not meeting at the front of your opponent's torso. In theory, the wedge between inside and outside would meet about a foot behind your opponent's back.
Yeah.
So the point does move slightly. So I'll stay back away from you because you're not wearing a mask. So if I'm on my inside line, we call this cart or fourth position, I'm going to be about there. But if I go to the outside position, high outside, I'm going to be in sixth, and my point does move, but not much.
But your point is somewhere here.
Right. So in theory, these lines converge, right? Yeah, and they would literally have the vertex right about a foot behind your opponent's torso.
So you're pointing your tip through them at any time, keeping it between you and them.
And look, if you can begin, and there's a lot to process, so don't get overwhelmed, right? And we can take it one step at a time. But if you can think about a light touch with your hand, and then be imagining that wedge that keeps you safe, which is really the line of your blade, right? Being in the different positions, even if you don't remember the names of them to begin with, that's fine. That will help you really conceptualize classical fencing a whole lot better, and you can get started off a lot more quickly.
Yeah, right? those are the hanging for us, like here, all the way around.
Right. Yeah. So with HEMA, it's very, very different. So Jose's got a good background in HEMA. And has
cool, yeah.
HEMA group too. So
I try it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to have you guys there in the sun. If you want to come up into the shade.
I was slowly going towards the shade.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
There we go.
All right. So, so remember, you come to like that first position, right? And then now what I want you to try to do is step into the on guard position, and then let's just check body position. So if you can, come on guard and then freeze there, right? So step out, find that, you know, shoulder width, have your heels at 90 degrees, right, and lined up. I should say your toes at 90 degrees, one another lined up. And then your hand, remember, off of your foot, outside, right? A nice light grip. Yeah, I want to do that. Okay. Okay. Now, I would say that's good, but I'm going to position you here and then turn your palm up. There you go. Maybe even a little bit more. Okay.
So my thumb is all the way up?
No, not all the way. So we're going to put your thumb on this corner right here.
Oh, that's
there we go.
way different.
Yeah, and we're going to go right there, right like that. Okay, and now, ideally, this is going to be loose enough that you can put a finger right there. Nice and light and loose. Okay, so that's grip. And now do you see how you're right on center line? So we're going to put this hand over here, right there. Right there.
Oh, they're gonna take practice.
Yeah. And maybe rotate. Okay, now, because you have this style of coquille, this helps you like visualize. You want to have this kind of at 45 degrees, right about like that.
So I'm gonna be seeing the edge.
Corner. Yeah, corner of the blade. Okay, all right. So let's go.
That's a way.
Yeah. So palm up a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, and not rotate quite so much. Right. Okay. And then that's quite good. You might think about getting that thumb on that edge a little bit. I know that's a worn.
Yeah.
That's quite good, but now loosen this up.
Okay.
And you want to have it loose enough so that you can slide a finger under there, right like that, nice and light. So you see just a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's look at the position overall. And your knees looking pretty good. Okay. Now you want to raise your hand up a little bit, right about there. And like if you were fencing me, I'm much shorter than you, so you'd be right about there.
Okay.
Right about there. And we'll adjust it over time.
So I'm gonna need some help reconditioning to not be down the center line.
You learn center line. Yeah. That's one of the big differences. Yeah. So, and you don't have to go that wide, but yeah, that's somewhere in between. Somewhere in between. And then with yours, let's just so loosen up your grip there, and we're gonna slide this forward a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And let me see.
We had always tried to envision holding a Twinkie without destroying it.
Yeah. Okay.
I like the bird metaphor,
I want you.
though.
Okay. All right. How about you guys come here and I want to show you something.
Quick question.
Yes.
My elbow. Here? No, it's not on the outside, right? It's more on the inside.
So, I mean, the elbow is not going, unless you're in épée, the elbow's not really a target in foil. So you don't have to worry about it being out
but
there.
I mean for positioning and alignment.
Yeah. So, I mean, for positioning alignment, if you can get it behind the coquille, that's fine, but you shouldn't stress about that.
Okay.
Right? In theory, it's off to the side a little bit.
Looking downwards.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I want you guys to come and take a look at Aiden, because I want to show you something. This is one of the great French grips from, a slightly earlier era, because now they've really cheapened them, right? And this has just got a foam on it. This one actually has a good S-curve, like Aiden's does. I guess I didn't have the other brand. There are some brands that really don't have much of an S-curve. Okay, now, I want you to grab that the way you were shown to hold your foil. Okay, so come on around over here, guys, behind Aiden, and I want to show you something, because remember, you just got to get this right as best you can.
You're really holding it.
Yeah, okay, and so right up behind the coquille, right? So we're gonna scoot it forward, so you got about 3/4 of an inch there.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say your thumb position is really good. Okay, but now kind of tight. Yeah. So I would say loosen that up, because you want to be able to put a finger behind or underneath that grip.
Okay.
But now I'm gonna hold your foil, if you're okay with that, and I want you
that's
to just
fine.
open up your fingers. Okay. So see how the S curve of the grip is oriented this way. Okay. So you have been shown how to hold this the wrong way.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So I want to rotate this for you, and I want you to see what it does. It's going to mess with your head, and it might even mess with your point control.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So watch what happens when I rotate it. This was up for Aiden, but look when I rotate it this way. Do you see how we have an S curve now?
Yeah. Sure.
So this swell is where these manipulating fingers go. So technically, it should be like that.
That's interesting.
Okay. All right. Now.
It's definitely a different hand feel.
Yeah. Now, okay, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you got to do what you're comfortable with. It's not that there's necessarily one right way.
Sure. Yeah.
But this is designed to be used that way.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you learn the other way and you want to stick with that, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you can make it work.
As long as it feels comfortable
Right.
and usable.
But honestly, it's for at least least if you're going to get a beginner set of equipment with a basic foil French grip, it's not so easy to get a good strong S curve like that.
Well, that kind of makes sense why, like, just why I was taught to hold it so far over at like 3 o'clock, because like this, I can tell it's much, if I'm holding it the right way, right? I can tell it's much more difficult to come in.
Yeah.
But if I'm holding it, how was I holding it?
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, sideways.
Then now it's already kind of facing inwards, you know what I mean?
So okay, so that's about the cant. Are you familiar with blade cant?
No.
Okay. Okay. So let me show you something. I'm going to step back. Yeah. Okay. Did someone put this together for you?
I put it together.
Okay. So
I end up mixing and matching a lot of parts to find what's
so
comfortable.
the cant's off.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to show you something. It's straight on, right? See it straight on the grip? Straight on. Okay, straight on, right? In classical fencing, blades are typically canted to the inside if you're holding on the outside. So if I rotate it the way you were holding it,
So it's
Right.
here.
right. So now check it out. Mine's not canted very much. It's a very subtle cant.
Is this one canted?
I don't think so.
Yeah, does it look like that all?
No.
I will say I put it back together how I got it.
Yeah.
That's just
Okay.
kind of how they work.
All right. So check it out. If I rotate it to where his grip was, it is canted. It's going to the inside. This facilitates that wedge I was telling you about. So if I'm holding it over here, that wedge would converge behind your torso if I'm in the outside line, and if I switch to cart on the inside line, it facilitates that wedge.
So we're basically doing this.
Yes, this way, right? Okay, but the thing is, if you hold the grip the right way, it's straight. So I don't know, do you want me to fix it for you real fast? Or do you want me
Yeah,
to-
go
okay.
for it if,
All right,
if it's
so,
not too.
So that you guys can see how
Oh, that's
this
the
is
awesome
done.
thing.
Here, let me
Yeah.
grab
And just a
my
simple-
water bottle.
Yeah, it's really easy. So this is the pommel, right? And this is a counterweight, and these are both a matter of preference as far as how much they weigh, and they're matched to the blade so that it really causes your blade tip to dip or raise with very little effort. It balances the long leverage of the blade out in front of you.
I had what I ended up doing is I ended up replacing my foil, but I didn't like how light it was, and so I took like the pommel and the guard from my old one and put it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are gonna go then. Okay. So you do want your cants, right?
Yeah, I imagine that'll make
Right
it
there.
more comfortable to hold it in
Absolutely.
the position you're looking for.
Yep. Okay. So we just went 90 degrees. Okay, and you know there's a pad for just in case you clash, and of course if you do clash, something's gone wrong. In fact, more than one thing has gone wrong if you clash. And Aiden, I think we were talking about it. I think right before you arrived. You know, one of the things, like if you want to like down the road get real serious about classical fencing, the only thing that would help you do better with beyond just a basic foil like this is just to, particularly since you have that good grip, is just to change the coquille so it's not a completely round coquille.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is that? Because it obstructs like your movement, or?
No, I'll show you very quickly. So I mean, we're not going to lunge anything, but if you would bring your blade up here. So let's